Okay, I got a new breakfast thing, Brad.
Ooh.
We're recording this before breakfast, which is a mistake also.
Well, hang on. You came in here with a mouthful of cookie.
It's a breakfast bite, not a cookie, sir.
Uh-huh.
So it's got chias, it's got seeds, it's got some sort of binding agent. I don't know.
That was not a regulation breakfast.
It's not official breakfast. But my official breakfast these days, I don't do it that often. But we started the grocery store near us has good bagels now occasionally.
Okay.
Not like New York good, but like pretty good for here.
California good.
And I've been doing an egg and cheese bagel in the morning for breakfast on the reg.
Okay. It's classic. Yeah.
And I had two things I've done to up this sandwich. First, I finally, after like 10 years of looking at them, I bought some of those silicone rings that you put on the pan to keep the egg in a circle shape, which, look, I'm getting there. They're a little tricky. I don't know why, but sometimes the egg runs out of the bottom. Then you just kind of scoop it up and chuck it back in the top. So my eggs are nice and round, which is I think an important component of this thing, right?
Yes, egg shaping is a fine art.
And also bonus is that I can have like cooked on the outside and a little runny in the middle because I like a little bit of a wet egg, which I know is a controversial take.
I don't need to hear about your wet eggs, okay? I mean, I'm with you. I run a yolk.
Well, but this is, I do scramble, just to be clear. So I have like I like a moist scramble. I put some butter in there. You know, I stir it up, get a little bit of fat in there, and then it's delicious. But what I've started doing is I started toasting the bagels, and then when the bagel is toasted, I butter the top piece, and the bottom piece I just put a slice of American cheese on and leave it in the toaster oven so it melts down and gets kind of soggy, and then put the eggs on top of that.
I'm sitting here resisting the urge to comment on your cheese choice.
Well, okay, American cheese for a breakfast sandwich is the right cheese. You can put cheddar on there if you want, I guess.
I am of the opinion that there is no right situation for American cheese.
What?
Let's move on.
What do you put on a burger?
It depends.
Do you
on
hate America bread?
No.
Okay, sounds like you might.
It depends on what mood strikes me. Let's see. I mean, a burger could be cheddar, it could be Swiss, it could be blue.
I like a Gruyere on a burger.
If you want to. You want to get fancy. My girlfriend had a burger with brie on it at a restaurant not long ago.
I don't think that sounds very good.
No,
I think brie is going to be too stinky for like a cream brie maybe.
Brie's not that. I mean, blue is stinkier than brie by far.
Yeah, but blue works. Like you put blue, some mushrooms, some like grilled onions on there. That's a burg, right?
Ranking of cheeses. Let's go.
Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Brad, the reason you put the cheese, the revolution on the sandwich is the cheese under the egg is way better than the cheese on top of the egg. And it took me a long time to figure that out. You look thoughtful, pensive, even.
Doesn't that result in molten cheese leaking through the hole in the bottom of the bagel? I live a fine line. I live my life on a fine line, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to get it too hot. That's why I put it in the toaster oven. Okay.
After the heat's off. It's just enough to kind of flop it down. Also,
maybe just eat the bagel fast enough that the cheese can't leak.
That's a strong policy as well. I'm going to say I figured this out because I'd been making different kinds of muffins, McDonald's egg/sausage McMuffin style for a while. And I couldn't figure out why they didn't taste right. And it was because I had the order of things on the sandwich wrong. And McDonald's always puts the cheese on the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Was it the McDeluxe? No, what was it called? What was the assemble
the
your own
McDLT?
Yes, was it the McDLT? The assemble your own burger contraption at McDonald's?
Yeah, that was the McDLT, I believe.
Maybe they had
the hot side hot and the cool side cool.
Yes,
double the styrofoam.
Maybe they were onto something.
Yeah. So anyway, not to talk about sandwiches anymore. I hope that people listening in their cars aren't now driving through drive-thrus because they're hungry. I apologize. I mean, I would talk for an entire hour about sandwiches if this were a podcast oriented toward sandwiches and not technology. I follow somebody on Blue Sky who does like politics commentary, but also has a newsletter where she writes about sandwiches, different kinds of sandwiches every week. It's a good newsletter, the sandwich newsletter. So this week we have something a little different. This was a suggestion from a listener, from a patron.
Yes. They posted this in the episode topic ideas folder on the Discord, where you can go and post your episode topic suggestions.
Yes, always a great idea. Anytime an idea strikes you, go put it in there. We love reading your episode ideas.
Yeah, so once we scrolled up past the 50 people talking about CrowdStrike in there, we got to Jedi KV, who said, what would be your personal essential software list for any system? Not necessarily the best in class, but the ones you stand by regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at that and we were like, we've kind of done that before, but we were talking about it because it's an interesting idea. And we got to a framing that we think is good for this topic, which is, what's the stuff that you have pinned to your taskbar, pinned to your start menu, in your system tray, and maybe on your desktop if you launch software off your desktop like some sort of weirdo.
Who launches software from a desktop?
I was hoping you were going to say you did, so I could give you some grief about it. But you seem like a decent human being, Brad, so I'll let it slide.
Me? Like I'm affronted anytime an installer even still creates an application shortcut on the desktop.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. That is a literal Windows 95 era holdover.
I am a clean desktop purist. I will be until the day I die. The first thing I do on a new Windows install is right click on the desktop and turn off the show all icons button.
Oh, well, hang on now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can claim to be a purist if you are merely hiding the icons.
Look,
isn't that akin to just sweeping all the dirt under the rug?
What you say that like there's some, wow, I have a lot of application shortcuts on my desktop, it turns out.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with sweeping the dirt under the rug as long as you never lift the rug up, Brad. That's the thing to remember.
Fair point.
Because it's like Schrodinger's desktop icons here, I think. As long as I don't know that they're there, as long as they're not observed, they neither exist nor don't exist.
Yeah. I have files and folders aplenty on my desktop, but no application shortcuts.
Nope. I want to see that wallpaper. I want a pretty wallpaper there right now. I've got a artistic render of Outset Island from Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
That sounds nice.
And because I use a tool that's in my system tray that we'll talk about, it changes from day to night as the day goes on.
Oh, like Apple style?
Like Apple style.
Oh, man, that's cool. Wow. Okay, so yeah, like I think the taskbar, system tray, start menu framing is a good way to distill, like, here's stuff we use often, here's the stuff we can't live without kind of thing. But also, as you just illustrated, I hope that you and I and also people listening to this will come away from this with some ideas for some new stuff that we did not already know about or use.
Yeah, hopefully. And hopefully people will send in the stuff that they use too.
Yeah. Yes. Please hit up the thread for this episode on the Discord after this goes up and share your tips as well. And
if you're not on the Discord, you can hit me on Blue Sky. I'm willsmith.fun over there, and I'll collate these for the maybe Q&A episode later this month.
Yes. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I've got a line on obtaining brad.fun.
Ooh.
Speaking of .fun.
That sounds like expensive .fun.
I may still get my hands on it yet. It was offered to me, let's say.
You could put yourself up as Brad.sucks' nemesis.
Oh, is there a .sucks?
Well, Brad Sucks I think he's a musician.
Oh, yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah. Yes. He's your enemy. Brad Sucks, you rule.
But there's not a .sucks TLD yet, is there?
I think he's bradsucks.net. I feel like he's on Blue Sky. I feel like I've seen him on Blue Sky, but I don't know if he got brad.sucks.
Okay, now we're just going to get derailed into talking about domains. Now I'm going to check and see if .box has launched yet. I think it has.
Yeah,
which means that I have fully missed getting shoe.box.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Where were we?
So let's start. Do we want to start with taskbar? I feel like the taskbar is where I put the stuff that I touch. Like the pin, like I have a handful of things that I use all the time and are always running that I pin to the taskbar, mostly so I can use those Windows plus the number key shortcuts to launch them and switch to them. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. That's another thing I hope will come out of this is there's like kind of a lot of hidden functionality about the icons on the taskbar that people may not know. And that's one of them is the window plus number key. I like those. I use about 1 through 4 or something like that. I use 1 through 4, 1 through 5. Yeah.
Beyond, if you can't like pinky finger and index finger it, or even actually like thumb and index finger, it's a little awkward. But anyway,
for me, if it's not on the left hand, it doesn't. It doesn't read.
That's it. If I need both hands to hit a number on the far side of the row, those last 5 icons are not getting shortcutted.
Yeah. So also worth mentioning the things that I turn off on the taskbar, and I bet you and I are the same here. Search is off. Task view is off. Widgets are off.
Oh yeah.
Copilot is off. Like I get rid of everything. All I want on the taskbar is the start menu, and applications.
That's it. Like the window, the start button, which is it even still a start button?
It's called the start button. It's just called start, I think now.
It hasn't said start on it in like how many Windows versions?
If you mouse over it, it says start. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Anyway, yes, it's start button and a bunch of app icons, and that's it.
Okay, so from left to right for me, I have Firefox, then Explorer, then Steam, then Discord, then OBS, and then Notion. And that's it. That's all I have on my desktop.
Wow.
That's all I have on my taskbar.
That's a Spartan list of icons.
I like to keep it, I keep it tight. I'm centered, so it's nice.
Yeah.
So it's like bundles up in the middle there.
Okay.
Firefox, we've talked about Firefox a lot. I think we can talk about this in your section, I think, judging by I've peeked ahead at your list. I use a bunch of Firefox extensions to kind of make it exactly what I want. I mean, it's not that many, but it's like I have the Firefox multi-account container. I have uBlock Origin. I have Power Close, which lets you close tabs by search with a search. So I can close all of the Twitter tabs at once, basically. And then I have my 1Password extension is in there, which we'll talk about in a future bit. Steam obviously is open all the time because when I was working in games, I spent a lot of time on Steam.
Wait, are you a launch Steam at login guy?
I launched Steam and Epic on login because those are where I play most of the games that I play.
Huh.
I don't like to have to wait for an update to go when I want to play something.
Fair, although I mean, I guess you can customize this behavior, but Steam has gotten pretty aggressive about delaying updates.
That's true.
Like by a matter of days in a lot of cases. I assume they're probably calculating that based on how often you run it. Is that a safe assumption?
I believe so. But like you can also, so for example, when I was working on the Anacrusis, obviously it's open all the time because the dev builds are delivered via Steam. So you can prioritize and say, hey, update this, update. If you have games that you play regularly, you can say always update this the moment an update lands.
Okay.
Which was really convenient. Also, turns out I did a lot of Steam messaging as a result of the game work. Like the friends list is pretty important to me.
Sure. Makes sense.
So yeah, Discord, obviously I have 3 or 4 Discords that I'm active in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of replaced Twitter DMs in a lot of ways, it turns out.
Sure.
OBS, I use virtual camera for OBS, so I can take whatever I'm showing. I have a little bit more control over my camera feed. Like I do cropping and stuff in OBS rather than trying to do it in a shitty webcam interface. I can also do the NVIDIA background removal if I want to have just a black screen behind me or an image. And then also it's kind of nice sometimes to be able to grab like my virtual camera scene in OBS. I have a specific scene set up for virtual camera in OBS, which I think a lot of people don't know you can do.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So there's some tips here that I just you clued me into some weeks ago.
Yeah, and then I also have it set so that it automatically launches the virtual camera interface without me having to do anything when I launch OBS. And you do that by tacking -- start virtual cam on the end of the target field in your OBS shortcut properties. And then it automatically goes in there. It's to set which scene you want. You click on the little gear next to the virtual camera button on OBS, and you say you pick a scene, and then you pick the scene that you want.
Yeah,
rather than a source. And then the neat thing about that is you can put other sources in that scene that you can turn on and off. So if you want to show people your desktop without having to use, say, Zoom or Teams or Google Hangouts or whatever their crappy desktop grab, you can just switch that on, and all of a sudden your camera feed is going to be your desktop.
Right. And you can use all the fairly advanced like transform and zoom type cropping type tools that OBS has. You could like zoom in on a specific part of your desktop.
Exactly.
And make that full frame or whatever. For people who don't know, the virtual camera in OBS it exposes an actual camera device to Windows. Like anywhere, Zoom, anything that uses a camera feed,
yeah.
Right? Anything that uses a webcam, when you go to your device list of cameras that are connected, there will be a virtual camera listed there, and that's whatever OBS is spitting out. I don't know if is the ability to specify which scene you want the virtual camera to show relatively new, because I feel like at one point it was just whatever was the output of OBS, like whatever was like the
program,
right?
Is what they call it, yeah.
The program feed.
Yeah, I as long as I've used it, it's had this option.
Okay.
But I also was a kind of late adopter to the virtual cam support.
Yeah, when you told me about all this, because again, I thought you only could do the program feed, which means you can't also be streaming at the same time. But once you told me about all that stuff, I started thinking about running OBS all the time. Do you just have it set to launch at login?
I don't have it set to launch at login because it's one of the things I like about it is it means I don't accidentally, since all of my video utilities use the virtual camera, it means that I'm not going to accidentally pipe video out to anybody if OBS is turned off.
Right.
So I have like if I look at the taskbar and OBS isn't turned on, I know that I don't have video going out anywhere.
So this is just a safety measure.
It's a safety measure. Yeah.
So you just open OBS when you need the camera and then close it when you're done.
That's exactly it. The other thing that's nice about that is OBS, when virtual camera's on, OBS keeps your computer from going to sleep. So it means that if I'm getting up for like 10 minutes to go do something, I don't want my computer to be asleep when I come back, OBS running will solve that problem for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the last one is Notion. I've used different things over the years for note taking. I ended up settling on Notion most recently. I'm starting to get some real kind of Evernote vibes in terms of how they're locking you into the content, but they still let you export everything relatively easily to other formats. I love the kind of wiki nature of each notes page. It seems pretty good. I think I'm looking at some other stuff though. I'm looking at like Obsidian and Simple Note, and maybe a return to Simple Note is where we're at. I don't know.
I still use Simple Note. Not as much these days, but I not every, but most of the reviews I ever wrote for Giant Bomb, for example, are still sitting there in my Simple Note account.
So it's funny. I used Simple Note a ton in the early tested days when we were in the basement. I think maybe based on your recommendation.
Oh, I was about to say I probably got it from you. So one of us probably learned about it from the other. Yeah,
we definitely like. I stopped using it in about 2013 because it munged up my share folder and I lost a bunch of data. And I was like, well, that the whole point of a notes app is that I don't have to worry about losing data.
Mm-hmm.
Notion, the thing that Notion does that makes me incredibly annoyed is instead of just updating every time when you launch, it pops up a full modal that says, hey, do you want to update? And I don't, it doesn't need to do that. Just do it on a reboot, on a restart or reboot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
And then I also have voice meter macro set up, but that's mostly for streaming. It lets me pipe mute commands to the streaming PC when that's on.
So that is 1 to 6. That's only 6 icons on your taskbar.
Six icons on my taskbar by default.
Svelte.
I like to keep things trim
compared to I'm just eyeballing here, roughly 20, maybe 16,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
18,
15, 16, 17. Yeah, somewhere in there. What do you got, Brad?
Okay, I'll just read the whole list.
We're going to go taskbar,
yes.
And then tray, and then start menu. I think is the plan.
Yes. So this is my taskbar. I'll just read everything. Some of this bears more or less explanation. Chromium.
Okay, Brad, hold on. Brad, why do you have 2 browsers?
Let me read the rest of the list first.
Okay.
File Explorer, everything. The drive indexing search tool. Windows Terminal.
Yeah.
Steam, Epic Game Store, and Battle.net, one after the other. WhatsApp and Signal, and Discord. These are all kind of grouped loosely based on functionality. OBS, Audacity, VLC, MPV.
There's some redundancy here I'm seeing.
Music. I work with a lot of media formats.
That's true. Okay.
Music B and Fubar 2000.
What is Music B?
Music B is the closest thing. We're going out of order here.
Okay. So I'm starting at the beginning. Brad, why do you have 2 browsers, man?
I deal with a lot of Google accounts. Okay.
Yeah, so do I. I have them all logged into one Firefox instance, and I just click between them when I want to switch.
Yes, I've thought about dealing with other or checking out other solutions. I use Chrome profiles for a long time, but I never really liked the way they work.
The browser profiles?
Yeah, like
those
the browser
suck.
level. Yeah,
because you can't have 2 browsers open with different profiles on them. Or at least last time I used it.
It was a solution, but not a great one. Let's say so.
Okay.
At some point, I was like, it's nice to have like full app separation, even when you're like alt tabbing. Just see completely different browsers. Like, yes, it might be a little bit of an extra waste of resources to run 2 different browsers at a time, but I have 64 gigabytes of RAM and 40 threads in this machine. And at a certain point, like, Chrome, as we've said before, Chrome is the most compatible thing out there, right? Like everything, like video call software, all that stuff is tested against Chrome. And
if it's going to work in any browser, it's going to work in Chrome.
Yeah, there's a reason they have like 70% market share or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So at some point I was just like, what if I just go get the Chrome without all the Chrome in it? You know, like Chromium is just the development build of, or it's the kind of core that Chrome is based on, is my understanding.
Yeah, without any of the Google sync and Google specific stuff in.
Right. And I update it with my package manager in Windows, so like I don't even have to touch, because you know they're updating it constantly because it's a development version. So I just update it when I update all the other packages on my system.
Okay.
So it just stays up to date that way. And I only ever open like 6 things in it. Like it's basically like Gmail, Slack, 2 or 3 other work tools, and that's it. So it's just a completely separate, siloed other browser just sitting there where I only have my work stuff open.
Okay, so let me introduce you to this thing. Hobbs pointed this out in chat a few weeks ago, but I've been using it for a while, called Facebook multi-account containers. Firefox multi-account containers.
Mm-hmm.
So Firefox ships with this Facebook container plugin that prevents Facebook from interacting with itself on non-Facebook sites. So like the Facebook bugs are missing from all the pages, which is a good thing. It keeps them from tracking you.
Sure.
This takes that and lets you do it on an individual app by app or site by site basis, basically. So you get color codes your tabs, and you can have the cookies are separate for each container. So like you can have your work container that has all of your work logins and it'll be blue, and your banking container can be yellow and it's all your banking sites, and so on and so forth. And the nice thing is, when you, instead of you having to open a container and then go to the site, when you just type in the site that you're going to, like if you say if you're going to Nextlander's Slack, which has a different subdomain, it just knows that that's the Nextlander Slack and opens the right cookie container for you. It doesn't work obviously for Gmail unless you're I can't remember. I don't think our Gmail accounts, work Gmail accounts, are still on mail.google, I think, right? Yeah. So it doesn't work for that, but everything else, it just kind of works, and it's incredibly powerful, and it means you don't have to have 55 browsers open.
I only have 2. Thank you.
That's okay. I have 2 browsers open right now too, because we use Chrome for Jitsi, but anyway.
I mean, and then again, as I will say until I'm blue in the face, that's really the reason that I keep so much Chrome around. Well, is mainly video calls. Like there have just been enough compatibility instances where it was like a guest shows up like, hey, this video call's not working. Can't get my camera to recognize or whatever. Like, what browser are you in? Not Chrome. How about trying Chrome? And then it just works.
Yeah, I will say my therapist's video call service, like the hey, I'm a doctor and I have a video call service thing, is a Chrome. It's only Chrome.
It's that type of stuff.
It's always Chrome.
You know, maybe to illustrate the broader point of this episode, I do have Firefox installed now. Since you've been extolling its virtues, I did go grab it. I haven't used a ton of it. I mean, it's not like I'm a stranger to Firefox, to be clear. I used Firefox exclusively, 15, 18 years ago, whatever.
It was, it's been a while.
When it was newish. But,
before Chrome existed, basically.
The point is, I now have Firefox installed. I just have not pinned it yet. So maybe I'll get to the point where I'm using it enough to pin it.
I will say I do keep Chrome installed. I don't use it. I basically only use it for our Jitsi calls and talking to my therapist. So
yeah, like I might start going in a direction like that at some point.
Okay, File Explorer is pretty self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory. Everything, could not live without it.
What is it? So I stopped using everything because it was slow.
Okay, so there are things you need to do to make it not slow.
Okay. Does it involve it not indexing everything on your computer anymore when you do that?
Well, no, you do need it to do that.
Okay.
So there are 2 settings. First of all, everything, voidtools.com is the website. We've talked about it a bunch of times before. It is a must-have Windows app to me because it indexes everything on all of your drives and basically builds a quickly searchable database. So you can just open it and search for any file on your whole computer, and it will basically find it as you type. Like, it's that fast. The things you need to do and everything to make it very fast are, I think it's 2 different things. I could be wrong on this, but I think you need both of these. There's an indexing service.
Mm-hmm.
It can. So I believe it can either index actively only while the app is open, or you can install the service that indexes in the background all the time.
Yeah, I want the latter, I think, rather than the former.
Yes, so that's what I run the service. I mean, you have to go into administrator mode to approve it, but it's just all it does is set up a background service that handles the indexing transparently. The other thing, and I think this is the one you might be thinking of, is I believe I also actually had to set it to start at Windows login. So technically, the client is also running at all times, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so it's just running in the background and you're popping it up when you hit the shortcut.
Yes. So it doesn't even show on the taskbar as running, like the icon is not underlined as if it's running. But if I go like everything.exe will be running in my task manager list. If I go look, I believe right now, the upshot of those two things is that literally it opens as fast as I can click it and it searches as fast as I can type.
Do you run the portable version or do you run the installed version?
I think it's the portable version, or I might have actually moved to Scoop. So I mentioned earlier I use a package manager in Windows. I use Scoop.
Okay.
There are a bunch. There's Winget. There's Chocolatey is the classic one.
Yeah.
I've slowly been transitioning. Every portable app I use in Windows, I've been transitioning to getting it through Scoop.
Oh, okay. And does it still save your stuff? Does Scoop save your versions in a folder someplace where it's relatively portable? Settings are portable.
Scoop is interesting. It's like 90% super cool the way it's set up, and 10% a little quirky. But the nice thing about Scoop is it installs all the apps into your home folder, so there's no permissions issues. You don't have to approve anything as an administrator.
Oh, that's nice.
If you're tired of using Scoop, you can just like delete that folder from your home folder and forget about it, and it's done. There's no uninstall process. And yes, it uses like symlinks, basically, like junctions, I think they might be called in Windows parlance. I'm not sure. It basically creates a like persistent folder for each app, and then like kind of symlinks the different versions, like whatever the current version of the app is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Long story short, anything like configuration that needs to persist between versions of an app just stay in that persistent folder.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So Chromium, I think everything like MPV, which we'll get to, like Audacity. I mean, pretty much anything that I ran portably, where in previously I would have to just download a zip file and unzip it over top of the old one to upgrade it. Now I just run the one, update all packages.
Update all.
Yes.
Cool.
Which is nice. But yeah, if you found everything slow, I would highly recommend giving it another try and turning on
turn on the service and turn on launch at login. Okay.
I believe those were the two things I had to do to make it kind of instant, because I had the same thing where I wiped and reinstalled Windows at one point and reinstalled it and was just like, why is this so slow? This used to be instantaneous. And then
that's exactly what happened to me. Is I had it working. I built a new machine and I turned it off after about a week because I was annoyed by it.
Yeah. So you just need to go turn that stuff back on. Windows Terminal I find to be pretty great these days. I mean, obviously, if you don't need a terminal program, then you don't care. But
I don't keep it on my taskbar, but I do use it daily. So, and do you use the updated version, or do you just use the one that ships with Windows?
I'm using, I believe it's the Microsoft Store version, so it updates itself.
Okay.
I can do the dance of
install the latest PowerShell for new features and improvements is what I get.
Yes, I can do so my PowerShell also updates automatically now. I'm doing the dance of like getting app settings on the icon to see what version I have. It's 1.2.
Okay.
1.20, I should say, for Windows Terminal. I actually just have been looking at other terminals recently, though.
Oh boy.
I use iTerm 2 on the Mac, which is fine, but I've kind of been looking at like WesTerm as a cross-platform terminal people like quite a bit. It's written in Rust and uses GPU acceleration.
Why do you need GPU acceleration for a terminal, Brad?
Make it faster, man.
Oh my God.
Drawing large amounts of high-res text to the screen is not as lightweight as you might think.
Look, I always wanted a Millennium 2 back in the 90s as well because of all that hot text rendering speed, but I don't know about GPU acceleration for a terminal.
It is. I can tell you, since Windows Terminal has replaced its text renderer twice in the last 3 years, it makes a significant difference.
Okay.
More to the point, an inefficient text renderer is bad. Let's say.
Okay. Fair.
Anyway, that was a lot to say about Windows Terminal, which is fine.
We're into the game section, I think now.
Steam, Epic Game Store, Battle.net, you know what those are.
Do you run these all the time, or you leave them just off until you need them? Yeah,
I just open those when I want to play something.
Okay.
WhatsApp, Signal, and Discord, also self-explanatory, just to talk to people I know on different things.
Yeah, it annoys me that I have one that I don't have on my list that I should put on. Holy cow. Okay. It annoys me that it's become the diaspora of text formats is frustrating, because I used to use Twitter DMs for casual chats with people that I'm loosely connected with. Mm-hmm. And now I have to have Signal and Discord and a million different things.
Yeah. That's just the way of things now.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I kind of don't have a standard. I just tend to talk to people wherever they are.
Nope. It is a definite problem. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. OBS, we've already talked about pretty much. Audacity, digital audio editor that I use to edit this podcast, among others. VLC and MPV, I believe, is about the point that you were saying you noticed some redundancy.
Yeah. Hey, Brad, why do you have 2 video players installed?
They're not just video players. They play all sorts of media.
Okay. Why do you have 2 media players installed?
And in fact, one of them is better at some things and the other is better at other things.
Okay.
Is that a sufficient answer? I used VLC for 15 plus years. Like since VLC was big and I started using it and it was generally great. MPV rules though. Like MPV does some things that VLC cannot, or does them better in cases where, again, especially where this media stuff is concerned, a lot of this is informed by my line of work and specific needs I have around that sort of thing, which most people are not going to care about. But MPV, for example, it's a different media player. I'm trying to think. It's got FFmpeg in it. I'm trying to think like what underpinnings it might share with VLC. I think some.
I guess my question is why, like when I want VLC or MPV to launch, usually I just double click on a media file.
Well, that's a different thing. I mean, there are 2 questions here. There are, why do you have 2 media players? And then there are, why are these both on the taskbar when you probably just double click files to open them, which I do too. Like, to be clear, I almost never click these. It's just nice to have the option to, like, occasionally I'll just want to spawn a blank VLC window and drag like 8 music files in there.
Okay.
As opposed to, because I don't think you can highlight them all, and
you can add them to a playlist. You used to be able to, but like also I killed all those shell extensions for almost everything I have installed. So
yeah. I can't remember if you can, or maybe a better way to say it is the sort of like highlight multiple files and right click functionality is not reliable across different apps all the time. Nice to be able to just spawn a blank window if you want, but there's other stuff. And this goes beyond these apps that we should talk about that are like kind of hidden mechanics around the taskbar. For example, if you open VLC, if you click the icon again on the taskbar, it's just going to open that window you already have open, right?
Yeah.
What if you shift click it?
It opens another window?
Yeah, now you have 2.
That's a standard Windows thing, isn't it?
Right, but I don't know how many people know that. Like,
oh, yeah.
Maybe that's more widespread knowledge than I know. I don't think I knew that until 2 or 3 years ago, actually. Like if you want to open more instances of a running app, you can shift click the icon on the taskbar and open more, which again, like I do a movie and TV podcast, for example. That's a big part of the reason I have multiple media players, because like we're doing weird stuff where I might have 2 videos open side by side that I need to compare. And the biggest thing about MPV, well, there's a couple things, but it basically comes down to speed. MPV is dramatically faster at letting you step through a video than VLC is. I mean, it's like no comparison.
Yeah, that's absolutely that's why I have MPV installed. It's a little bare bones for what I do on the usual.
Yeah, so that's the other thing is to really get the most out of MPV, you really need to dive deep into text configuration. You spend a lot of time in your input.conf.
I love my input.conf
because this does come out of the Linux world primarily. But once you like set up a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, I mean, I can fly through, like, again, we're like, say we're doing a podcast about a given movie. Like I can absolutely fly through the movie from chapter to chapter. Like I have different shortcuts set up for like, step forward 3 seconds, 5 seconds, a minute, like freeze framing, all that stuff. Like MPV is just incredibly performant for navigating around in media.
Do people share their input.confs on the on GIS and wikis?
Probably, yes, absolutely. Okay. In fact, you can write Lua scripts around MPV to make it do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Of course you can.
MPV is very big in the anime like fan sub community, for example. That's where I found out about it from, because it lets you do a lot of cool stuff with subtitles and so forth.
Anime editor Brad Shoemaker at it again.
That's me. MPV rules. Like again, it takes some work to really get the most out of it, but it's pretty awesome.
I like it. It's worth having on your machine just for the fast scrolling, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes. What about Music Bee and FooBar?
Music Bee is the closest thing to an iTunes-like setup I have found in Windows.
Oh, hello.
And I have a pretty big local music library on my NAS. This is one of the many reasons I mount my network shares to lettered to drives in Windows.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that. I'm not going to get into that.
Because then I'm able to just tell Music Bee, hey, my music library lives on M:. But it does the kind of iTunes stuff you would expect of if you do all your tagging in Music Bee, it'll kind of rename files and folders to reflect the tags. That's that whole thing.
Wow, Music Bee supports ASIOS output. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's Music Bee is BEE, I should say, like the insect. Music BEE is how it's spelled. It's been around forever. I think this guy's been developing this thing for like 20 years or something. I think there are other alternatives for Windows that are probably similar, but this one works quite well for me. It's got a ton of features.
Can it has skins? Can you make it look like Winamp?
Probably.
Oh yeah, these skins are good. Oh man, I'm going to install this. This is great.
It's neat. You can do a lot of customization with Music Bee as well. I don't think it has a scripting language, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. Oh, it does. It does have add-on. You know, I've actually never even looked at plugins and visualizers for this thing. Maybe I should spend some time.
Oh hell yeah!
Seeing what kind of plugins for Music Bee exist.
What are the? Hold on. Let's look at the visualizers. Let's see what we got. The website's a little slow loading, so maybe we won't do this. But
actually, it is. Okay. It is quite slow.
And then Foobar is just Foobar. Foobar has been Foobar for as long as Foobar has existed.
This has gotten weird lately. Foobar 2000 I have exclusively for my synthesized video game music library, because until recently it was the place where all the plugin development was happening for like playing N64 music, playing SNES, like kind of across the board. You could get plugins for basically every console out there.
So is it like MIDI stuff with voice libraries that match up with the consoles?
Yes. Okay. So I don't know if I'll dig through and tell you, but my SNES, I have full soundtracks for every SNES game ever released, and it's probably like 20 megabytes or something, because each soundtrack is like 50K.
Can you play both SNES sound chips though in Foobar, or is it only the good one?
You're thinking about the Genesis that's got the...
I thought the SNES has different sound chips too.
No, Genesis is the one that has audibly different sound chips.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to look. I don't know what they're using for... I know like the Mr. Genesis Core lets you pick which synthesizer you want. I don't know if the Foobar plugin does. Anyway, I still use Foobar. There's been some I think Scene Drama is selling it short because I think there's been some like kind of malign influence in the Foobar 2000 community, and maybe from the developer, some kind of less than welcoming behavior, let's say. I haven't followed up on it too much. I don't know exactly, but I do know some of the developers of the video game music plugins for Foobar have declared they will no longer work on those.
What are your last 3 played things in Foobar?
Oh gosh, I can tell you. I've had a number of playlists that have just been sitting there for like years at this point that I will go back to occasionally.
Yeah, no. But I want to know what was the last thing you fired up in it?
Well, let's see. I've closed a bunch of stuff recently. Wave Race 64.
Hell yeah.
Pilot Wing 64.
Okay. I don't think I've ever played Pilot Wing 64.
The Famicom Disk System version of Metroid.
Wow, what's the difference there? Is it just more
it's like
MIDI?
One track. It's like one track. Yeah, the Disk System famously has better sound hardware than the regular NES. So a lot of Disk System games have better music, but in some cases, like it's just the title screen music.
Okay.
For Metroid, that's different. Military Madness for the TurboGrafx. SimCity for the SNES.
Oh, that's a good one.
I've got one called Super Metroid Ambient, which is just like kind of the more ambient parts of Super Metroid.
Sounds good. Like what you do the oh god, I had one of the names of the Brinstar. You got a Brinstar on there?
No, I don't believe Brinstar is on that list. It's like Arrival on Criteria or well, that's the name of the track. It's the part where it's raining at the beginning.
Okay.
Like there's the item room.
This sounds great.
I've got a playlist for all of the dungeons in Zelda in Ocarina of Time.
Hell yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I'm here for this.
I'm maybe on the hunt for a replacement for Foobar, both because it sounds like the community might be not great and because development has stopped on a lot of those plugins, but there's no replacement yet that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, post it in the Discord, send it to us on Blue Sky if you find something.
Yeah.
Okay, Sys Tray. This is where stuff gets real for me because I leave an embarrassing number of things running. This is where my Signal and WhatsApp live. I actually have turned off local Signal recently in favor of using Beeper, which is and I say that having had an update this morning that is preventing it from logging in, so I can't open it to really look at it while I'm talking about it. But it basically is universal chat for Twitter, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Signal, a bunch of the other places. I can't remember if it's Threads DM or maybe Instagram. Maybe that's the one that's not supported, but basically you can get DMs most of the places that DMs live, and you can usually respond there. It works okay. It's not, it might just be a prompt that lets you know you need to go look at this other thing, but that's kind of all I want. I want to make sure I don't miss messages, especially right now when I'm looking for a job and trying to talk to a bunch of people and stuff like that.
Sure. Beeper were the people that were allowing the Apple accounts, right?
They were doing Apple,
without a phone number.
You could pay them to run a Mac Mini with your iMessage logged in, which was So the other knock against Beeper is it is a little bit of security. You're a little bit less secure than running just Signal native. For me, the convenience is worth the lack of. I'm more interested in not missing messages than having the secure end-to-end pipeline because my work doesn't really demand it.
Right. But they were also, if I'm not mistaken, they were the people who also circumvented the need for a Mac Mini with your stuff running on it, right? They
ever
were
so briefly. Yeah.
Like a weekend, they found that loophole that let you make I think it was with a phone number is what people wanted.
Yeah. And now they just don't do that at all.
Right. Like that lasted for like 3 days.
Yeah. So to solve that problem, I use this thing called MS Phone Link, which is part of Windows 11, I think now.
Yeah, I've thought about setting that up, but it's kind of limited in some ways. But anyway, go on.
So it's limited in one specific way in that it lets you know, it notifies you when you have new messages in group chats, but you can't respond or interact with those group chats on the Windows machine. For everything else, it connects over Bluetooth to your PC, and on Android, you run an app and it just connects and syncs everything between Android and the device. It's great. On iOS, you connect your phone to the PC with Bluetooth, and then to the phone, your Windows PC shows up like a head unit in a car or something like that, where you get notifications. It can sync contacts, it can sync system notifications, but for the most part, you don't it's a little limited in the interactions. Like you can, for example, if I respond to a text on my phone, that response doesn't sync over to the Windows machine. Like I said, if you get a group text, you get a notification, you got a group text, but you can't respond to it on the Windows machine. You have to pick up the phone and use the phone.
Is that just for group text? So you can respond to individual messages from?
It's just for group text and grouped iMessages. It doesn't distinguish between the two. But for individual texts, you can absolutely it pops up a thing, you can click on it and you can respond to it right in the Phone Link app. It's like I said, it's limited in some kind of frustrating and difficult to parse how it's limited when you just start using it until you actually sit down and look at it for a little bit. It's incredibly useful because it means when I'm sitting here on my PC with my headphones on and I get 15 texts from somebody that are important, I get notifications for them on my PC. And you can also get system notifications. So like if you have your doorbell hooked up to it or something like that, then you'll get those notifications as well. But you can also on a MS Phone Link level turn on and off notifications you don't want to see. So, for example, and then the other thing is it shows up as a Bluetooth headset to your phone, so you can pipe calls straight through to your PC and use your PC mic and speakers or headphone to take calls. That is the jankiest part of this whole thing.
I bet
it's not great, but everything else works, and you can do media playback through that as well. So like if I press play right now, it's going to play the beeps that we use to sync the podcast in my headphones really loud, which I'm probably not going to do. But anyway, it's a really useful tool.
To clarify one thing, you were using the term text generically, but everything you said applies to both literal text messages and iMessages. Is that right? So you can, or more to the point, you can respond to individual iMessages from somebody?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. I have to set this up then.
Yeah,
because that's 98% of my use case.
That's exactly it. And so like I said, I wish you could turn off things like the Bluetooth audio sync on a per device basis that you can't do. So it means that your phone calls are going to ring in your headphones just like they would if you were wearing a pair of Bluetooth earphones or in a car hooked up to a Bluetooth stereo. But the benefit of having the notifications come through the system is worth the hassle for me. Let's see what else. We've got Dropbox, which has been an indispensable part of my workflow for like 20 years now. It seems like 15 years. Power Toys, which we all use. The Dropbox, I keep using Dropbox because you can right click on any file in your Dropbox and create a share link that you can send to somebody. That is something that is useful on the daily. Power Toys I have running because I have things like the launcher, the Alt Spacebar launcher running all the time. I do fancy containers. There's a couple other things I use there.
Yeah, I think Power Toys is just about a universal recommendation at this point. Like just go ahead and install it. You'll probably find something in there that you like.
Yeah, there's if you can't find something in Power Toys that you like, I'd love to hear from you. Oh, the other one is the image resizer is real good.
Yeah.
Look, there's actually 50 things in. I'm scrolling through the list. Just install Power Toys and noodle around with it. It's really good.
Yep.
And PowerToys now lets you turn off things you don't use, so you're not loading a bunch of extra stuff into memory if you're not using it.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Which is great. Yeah, that was a fairly recent addition, I think, or maybe they just exposed it better now. Sunshine, I keep running as well because I stream often. Often the Steam Link streaming support to the Steam Deck is a little janky, especially for newer titles. So, for example, Ghost of Tsushima, which I was playing last month, didn't stream particularly well on the Steam Link version. Sunshine was absolutely flawless, and it's a fabulous piece of software.
Yeah.
Wind Dynamic Desktop.
Yes, I am. I have Googled it. I am looking at it now. Go on.
So this is a tool that basically mimics the OS X Dynamic Desktop feature for Windows users. They have a whole bunch of packs of art, photos, illustrations that change. Basically, it changes the background throughout the day as time changes. It doesn't blend seamlessly like the OS X one does, but it does change usually in a way that you notice and is very jarring 5 or 6 times a day, depending on which pack you choose. I have the Firewatch Watchtower on my top monitor.
That's like the prototypical example of what you would want to use this for.
Yeah, and then the Outside Island from Wind Waker on the bottom monitor. Video game stuff, it turns out, works really well because you can set the camera in one place and just get multiple images throughout the day.
Now that you mentioned it, I have looked at this before, and yeah, I think there was like a gallery of like people were just going ham on every video game you can think of with a day-night cycle for this.
I feel like there's a subreddit specifically for this tool where people share stuff that's not even in the main gallery. Yeah,
that's cool.
And it's easy to make your own also, because you just basically have to make a bunch of images at specified intervals, and then you put a little bit of a I think it's JSON or XML, I can't remember, that describes which images go when.
That's neat. But you said it is basically just kind of a hard cut from one to the next.
It's a smash cut. It doesn't do it when games are running. Like, it's smart about if there's a full screen app going, it doesn't do it because it assumes you don't want to hit the system hard during that time. And I think that the wallpaper changeover in Windows for inexplicable reasons is a little bit of a system hog.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it enough that I haven't turned it off in favor of just having static wallpaper.
All right. I might have to give that another look.
Let's see what else. 1Password is the password manager I've used for years. I continue to use it because they haven't had any major problems. It does passkeys now, which I kind of don't really see the benefit of. But here we are. We still need to do a passkey episode. We should put that on the list, actually. And then the last one is this new NVIDIA app. I installed the default. So NVIDIA has replaced the GeForce Experience with, I think it's still beta. It might be official now. But it's a thing that kind of they're consolidating the old NVIDIA control panel that's been around for 20 years and the GeForce Experience app, which was the thing that would download your drivers automatically for you and set settings so that you have like a decent experience in games, regardless of what hardware you had. But they've added some really neat things to it lately, including the ability to hit temperature and power targets on your GPU.
Really?
And you can limit perf to a fan speed target.
Really?
So if you're concerned about noise, you can say, hey, make my fan speed never higher than 60%, and it'll do that.
So are you saying that basically replaces MSI Afterburner?
It replaces MSI Afterburner. You could also use fan control for the same thing on the GPU side.
I didn't realize fan control could control all that stuff, power and not just, it doesn't key everything against fan speed.
So fan control will just do fan speed, and then the thermal throttling will keep the GPU where you want it to be. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
But this will let you just by percentage, like the way Afterburner does, where you can just say like, hey, only go to 80% of the total power consumption of this thing.
Yes.
Okay. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but I have MSI Afterburner, and
you shouldn't have to do Afterburner and fan control necessarily. I mean, you should have to probably one of these will do all of them. Like the thermal throttling maybe not be desirable. That's a personal choice.
I see. I've got Afterburner set to 85% cap on my 4090.
Yeah, that seems right. Like the other way, there's a bunch of ways to limit that realistically. Like the other thing you can do is set the frame rate limit in games.
Yeah, I do. And
if you set like 120 hertz frame rate limit in your game, you're never going to get above 80% on the GPU, probably.
Yeah.
Depending on what resolutions you play.
Anyway, like I had avoided install. I haven't run GeForce Experience in ages, but I had avoided messing with that new NVIDIA app. But if it's out of beta, and B, if it replaces Afterburner, I might have to go ahead and go for it.
So I will say, I don't know if it actually is lighter, but it feels way more performant than the GeForce Experience app ever has. And it has all of the stuff that I used to use the GeForce Experience for.
Okay.
It also does. So I like to have things that download things in the background for me, so I don't have to think about them. It will let you. It lets you do automatic drive. I don't think it lets you do automatic driver install. It does let you automatically download the drivers and have them ready for when you want to install them, which is the thing I'm looking for. And I think it's out of beta now. It looks like it doesn't say beta on the version anymore.
Yeah, I'm on a page where it still says download beta.
Yeah, it generally speaking, I quite like it. It also has access to all of their NVIDIA internal apps, like the NVIDIA created apps like Broadcast and Omniverse. It doesn't update those for you automatically yet, which is I would like to see come soon.
Cool.
And that's it for me in the sys tray.
All right. Well, moving on to my tray, I'll say, I sent you. We were comparing screenshots earlier, and you were like, "Wait, you run MSI Afterburner all the time?" And yeah, it reminded me you don't have to, right? Like you set that limit once, and then you don't have to actually start the app at boot anymore, right?
Depends on your card, I think, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, I should look into that. Yeah. Anyway, there's that. A lot of the other standard stuff you mentioned, like fan control and Dropbox, ear trumpets.
I didn't talk about fan control actually,
because well, we've talked about fan control a lot. You should run fan control.
Fan control is really good. Fan control lives. Fan control is not in my tray. It's on my bar. I pull it out so I can see the number on the liquid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I guess you care more about watching that number, being on air cooling. It's kind of just like, well, is it noisy? No. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So fan control, the one thing that you can't, so fan control does let you control your GPU fan curves too, if you want.
Yeah.
You have to flip that on manually though, I think.
Yes. Ear trumpets, which we talked about before. I stopped
using ear trumpet because I have minimized the amount of changing I have to do so that I'm basically always on the same input and output now.
Yeah, ear trumpet's super useful. I mean, it's another one of those things that I largely use because I have such weird AV requirements, when we're streaming, I'm like assigning different applications and games to different audio output devices and all kinds of stuff like that. And it's good for that sort of thing, but it's also kind of good for everybody. Like just being able to quickly mute an individual application or control an individual application's volume at a whim is incredibly useful for everybody.
And just in Windows 11, you can do that now, but ear trumpet makes it one click instead of like 8, which is the benefit, I think.
Yeah, I should. I don't know if this is too much detail for this episode to get into, but there's also the question of which icons do you expose all the time in the tray and which ones are in that little collapsible menu.
It's only fan control for me
that you see all the time.
Well, and then the network and the speaker and the microphone if I'm using the microphone.
Right. Yeah. So I have put ear trumpet in that collapsible menu. That makes that word so hard to say because, like you said, a fair amount of the ear trumpet functionality, like you said, is now being exposed by Windows 11 itself, but not 10. Like that, some of that stuff was not there in 10.
Yeah. Well, so the thing I will say, like my need for ear trumpet went away when you could right click on the speaker and go to volume mixer directly from there.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, you can, if you just click that, left click it, and hit the button to the right of the volume control.
Yeah.
In Windows 11, the select a sound output button. If you mouse wheel down, you will just see all your running applications there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And you don't even have to open the actual control panel volume mixer to mute or change volume.
I just learned a new shortcut. Win Control V opens that panel.
When Control V opens that sound output selector, and that's where you can mouse wheel down.
Today I learned.
Yeah, Windows 11's got some nice UI quality of life stuff.
I feel like once you turn off all the crap that sucks, Windows 11's pretty good.
Right. Pretty universal truism.
Yeah, there you
just
go.
Remove all the stuff that sucks, then things are pretty good.
Yeah, if you get rid of everything that sucks, look. If you want some more deep thoughts, subscribe to the podcast.
Yep. I've got Elgato Control Center running because it integrates the key light with the Stream Deck.
So I stopped running that on my desktop because I have that connected to Home Assistant now, and I just have a scene set up for the different lighting settings I want.
I don't think I didn't realize the Elgato Light stuff could integrate with Home Assistant, but of course they can.
Everything that has a Wi-Fi connection and has a light on it, I think you can integrate with Home Assistant now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Last I checked, you had to run Control Center to get the Stream Deck integration to work, but
yeah, but so I have an Elgato Home Assistant integration, and then I have a Stream Deck plugin that connects to Home Assistant. So I just hit a button and it changes the scene on Home Assistant for me.
I should really hook my Stream Deck into Home Assistant.
It's the Stream Deck Home Assistant integration is really nice for controlling lights and stuff.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I should do that. The only other thing I've got in the tray is Auto Dark Mode X.
What does Auto Dark Mode X do?
It's just a very simple little application that lets you control the window, like the dark light mode aspect of Windows.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yes.
What if you just, dark mode all the time, baby? 24/7.
I have nothing against it. I fully understand why people just go 24/7 dark mode. I can't do it.
I'm in the Windows underground, man. It's always dark mode.
The underground zone for Windows.
Yeah.
I still like to have it on light mode during the day.
Wow.
Like, quite frankly, if Microsoft would just, and OS X's had this for years, if they would just build in like timer functionality, if they would just build in, and they've got Nightlight.
Do they not have that, really?
No, they still do not. They've got Nightlight, which is the, is it Nightlight on Windows and Night Shift on OS X? Is that right? I believe that's right.
I think that seems right.
That's the thing that makes your screen more kind of amber, warm colors, on a timer. But they do not have a timer built in for changing from light mode to dark mode.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
How is
insane.
that not possible?
It is insane that they still have not built that in after all this time.
So I did go look. I went to check on this because I honestly, I can't believe that is not a thing that just happens. You can now set your default Windows mode and your default app mode differently so that Windows tells apps to do dark mode or light mode and Windows is in the opposite.
Yes.
But yeah, there's no timer. That's crazy.
Yep. Nope, there sure is not.
It's wow.
It's really dumb. I'll say the other nice thing is that thing lets you assign a keyboard shortcut to changing between light and dark mode.
Oh, that's nice.
And then I mapped that keyboard shortcut to my Stream Deck so I can just hit a button on the Stream Deck to change from light to dark or back whenever I want.
I just know it's dark. It's nighttime when Outset Island starts to see the sun go down. Because when Dynamic Desktop, you put your GPS coordinates in, and then it looks at where you are and gives you ambient light on your screenshots based on ambient light in your outside world.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. All right.
Okay.
Start menus.
Start menu pins. I don't have very many things here. This is for me mostly portable apps and stuff that's annoying to launch for reasons. So the list of things that will be installed here over time, this is a relatively new install for me in Windows. So there's a bunch of portable apps, stuff like OpenRGB and Fan Control. There's WABEJect. OpenRGB runs full time, actually, and Fan Controller, both in the sys tray. But I figured to talk about them here because the portable apps, if you don't put them someplace, then hitting the Windows key and typing the name of the application won't launch them. And the way I launch most things is either by hitting Windows and then typing the name, or doing Alt and space and typing the name.
Yep.
So most of the stuff I use this for is that category of things. And it's also stuff like Ubisoft Connect, which is the new name for the Uplay app, which is the Ubisoft's non-Steam launcher for things like Rocksmith, because I play Rocksmith every day. And as a result, I need to launch Ubisoft Connect, which, despite being installed on my system for years, doesn't have a start menu entry aside from this pin that I made. I don't understand that. WABEJect is a mod organizer for, I think I have this installed for KOTOR, maybe KOTOR 2. I can't remember.
Yeah, we talked about it a few months ago, was it?
Yeah,
when we did that episode about mod stuff.
It's a mod manager for old games, like early 2000s games, I think mostly.
Mm-hmm.
OBS Studio. Mm-hmm.
New Vegas is a big example.
Oh, that's what it was. It was New Vegas is what I had it installed for.
Like games of that era that need a ton of mods. It's good for that stuff.
OBS Studio I have there, and then the Epic Games Launcher I have there. So it's funny. I try not to ever click things to launch them.
Yeah,
this is the thing I realized.
Way.
Yeah,
I'm kind of the same way, which is weird because I have I could 18. It's like 22 icons pinned to my start menu, even though I rarely click any of them. But
so yeah, for me, they're mostly there so that the pound hitting start and typing the name will launch. The one exception is the remote desktop connection, which I have a shortcut to launch directly into the connection to my streaming PC. because I a few months ago, I was like, I don't need a monitor hooked up to this. I never used this monitor. And also the monitor died. So it's kind of like, we don't need to talk about the order in which those things happened.
Sure.
But yeah, so I have a direct link into the Stream PC.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Desktop from there.
Yes, I am all for, like, since I got this PyKVM and put it on my server, like I'm all for sort of virtualizing the displays on headless machines.
Yeah, like the number of times I need a display on that machine is practically nil. I have a cable that runs to the second input on one of my other monitors for those handful of times that I do. And then the rest of the time, I just don't need it. I should take the old monitor. What I should really do is take the old monitor apart. I'm pretty sure that there's just like a capacitor that popped on it that I could probably fix up and solve the problem. But anyway, so that's it for me. That's all I have. And like I said, things will add over time as I add more portable apps and stuff like honestly, I should put Notepad++ there because that's one that I keep open and I use a portable version of that. The other stuff that I have installed as portable versions is like, it's funny. That's portable apps for me are things that I use infrequently, but need when I need them, I guess. So,
sure. Yeah.
And they're in my home folder, not in my documents folder anymore. Cause I was cleverer than I needed to be, I think a few years ago. Anyway, what do you got, Brad?
All right. Start menu, Affinity Photo.
That's a good one. For people who don't know, it's basically 99% of what you need in Photoshop, other than like complicated PSD rendering.
Yes, I swear by Affinity Photo. I use it weekly. Their other stuff, I can't remember the names of their other stuff, but they basically have a Photoshop equivalent, an Illustrator equivalent, and one other one. What is Adobe's?
Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, and I don't ever use the other one. I don't even think I have it installed.
What is Adobe's like desktop publishing? Oh,
InDesign.
Okay, I assume
that's
Publisher.
Designer. Designer is kind of like shoots the gap between Illustrator and InDesign.
Okay, at any rate, they are quite serviceable sort of Adobe equivalents for extremely cheap.
I would say they're one price. They're not a subscription.
Yeah, you can get a whole bundle. Or they're not a subscription, but also you can buy them piecemeal. But they also run constant sales on the bundle of all three of them. Like I'm looking.
Yeah,
the full license for all three of those applications across Mac, Windows, and iOS is $83 right now. And then again, that's like lifetime for all those versions.
Publisher is their InDesign clone.
Okay.
And just for the record, right now everything's half off until the 15th.
Right.
So it's $80 for all three.
Yeah, it's $165 normally for all those. And there was even a further sale, and I got upgrade pricing. I think I got all three of version 2 for like $60.
And you get the iPad versions too if you care about that, which is nice.
It's kind of a no-brainer if you have any kind of like photo editing needs, I think, and don't want to deal with Adobe stuff, which I absolutely do not. I will say this is maybe a little paranoid, but Affinity did just get bought by Canva some weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or months.
I would buy them now while you can.
I was on Affinity Photo 1 and it was basically just fine. But between that sale price of being like $60 to upgrade and the fact that they got bought out, kind of felt like, I should probably own the newest version just in case anything bad happens.
So the one place I will say that they're not great is with complicated PSD, like giant multi-layer files. They have a problem with.
Yes, I have heard from people like if you have to work with people who use Photoshop and are going to give you a bunch of Photoshop derived PSDs and stuff, that might lead to some headaches.
Yeah, like we used complicated PSDs to do marketing. Like if you're making a game, you need 55 different versions of the key art at different aspect ratios and with different things. And like some people can't have gunshots and some people can't have guns and some people can't have text and, all this different stuff. So you make these really complicated PSD files and Affinity. It was much like when you open a contract from your lawyer in Google Documents and send it back and you jack up all the subheads. Opening a complicated PSD and then saving it with Affinity is a kind of war crime. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. What else do I have here? HW info, I guess hardware info is how people say that.
Incredibly useful tool.
Yes. I think there are other equivalents out there. Like isn't HW monitor another one? Hardware monitor.
HW monitor is another one, like CPU-Z and GPU-Z, but both kind of do similar stuff.
Yes. Similar wheelhouse, but hardware info is the one I happen to use.
It basically lets you look deep into the guts of your PC and what the numbers are at.
Yes. Especially, let's say, when CPUs are in a regular habit of burning themselves to death these days, and you need to keep an eye on your voltages and temperatures.
Yeah, it's probably fine though. Don't worry about it.
Very nice thing to have. We had a little eye-opening moment right before this when I was just casually mentioning to you, like, oh, I tried to launch Half-Life Alyx yesterday and it told me I was out of GPU memory for some weird reason. And you were like, huh.
That's one of them.
Apparently that's one of the telltale signs of your 13th and 14th gen Intel CPU starting to die or starting to get unstable.
It's the failure that is indicative of a problem. One of them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, anyway,
okay.
Hardware info. Good to have.
Yeah.
Lossless cut. I think I've mentioned before.
Yeah, does this just chop video files into two separate pieces?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more robust than that. It's just a front end for FFmpeg. You could do all this from the command line, but it would be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, no thanks.
This gives you, a full-size preview window, and you can keyboard shortcut your way through it and set the ins and outs graphically on a timeline.
Oh, that's nice. So if you have like a clip you want to share on social or something from your hot gameplay,
it's one of those applications that is available from the developer's GitHub. It's like just a portable install. I don't even know if they have an installer version of it.
Oh, I like that.
It's a very lightweight little front end. You can just go download it and unzip it and run it. You can set multiple ins and outs on the same file. I could say like from 1052 to 11 blah blah, and then go further in the file and do a couple more, and then just hit the export button once, and it'll just spit out files of each of those clips.
And that's really cool.
You can tell it to cut on keyframes, which is what I always do, because generally cutting on a keyframe is going to give you basically a perfectly accurate cut exactly where you told it to. Because if you cut off of a keyframe, it's going to be fuzzy.
The iframes, it's not even just fuzzy. It's that sometimes the information's not there and weird stuff happens.
Or it'll default to a keyframe if you try to tell it to cut in between. I think it'll re-encode for you, but the whole point of it's literally called lossless cut. The whole idea is you're just cutting stuff out very quickly, right? Because it's not recompressing.
Yeah, that's lovely. Because that's always my fear when I have to chop a video up, is that the tool I use will re-encode it for me.
Yeah, and so you don't have this option for stuff you download. But what I've actually started doing is for everything I record locally. So my streams, the Ramblecast, which we do on video, like a bunch of stuff like that. I set the keyframe interval to 10 frames. Meaning that I get a keyframe every 1/6 of a second. And basically that just gives me a ton of viable cut points in the video. Okay. That does lead to the files being dramatically bigger. But
but that's okay. For what you're doing, like it doesn't.
Yeah, like I'm recording them to a 2 terabyte SSD. It's not a big, and I don't keep them forever. So like granted a longer stream could turn out to be like a 50 gigabyte archive file at a high quality.
Yeah, but the benefit of that is if you want some screens from that, you can go out and pull those iframes out, the keyframes out, and you get good quality screens too. Yeah,
but so having keyframes that often means I have a ton of options for exactly where to cut, and I can just trim the front and back off very quickly.
Can you trim audio independent at a different time?
Yeah,
or is it all okay? Like if you want to trim a little bit of audio out but have video there, can you do that?
Yes, if I understand what you're asking.
Like say I have a video that the audio from the previous person talking is crashing into the start of the action on the video a little bit. You can chop the first 3 seconds of audio out, but leave the video there.
You'd have to remux those files externally. It won't.
Okay.
It would. I think you'd have to spit out separate files and recombine them yourself.
Okay.
Like I said, it's pretty lightweight. It does let you select different audio tracks. For example, you could say cut this segment that I've highlighted with just the video and track 3 of the audio, or just the audio for that matter. You can use it just to export audio out of a video file as well.
So if you record your voice and your gameplay audio on OBS in different tracks, cool.
Yeah, it's super useful.
Seems really good.
Yeah. Make MKV, which I don't use as much these days, but it's kind of the standard for ripping your Blu-rays and UHD discs.
Yeah, it's a really good way to get content off of a disk onto a file that you can use with no copy protection.
Yes, it's just a good thing to have around, even if you just pull some old DVD that you forgot you had and want to say you find your copy of Metal Gear Solid 2, the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
The Japan only exclusive release on DVD of the Metal Gear Solid 2 E3 trailer.
The thing I literally didn't know existed until just now.
Yes, but it's Make MKV is useful for dumping video off of old discs and stuff like that as well. Yeah. Notepad++, which I don't use as much as I should, but it's a great monospace text editor for Windows.
That's what I use these days.
Although if there were something a little more lightweight, a little bit less feature heavy, I might be interested in it.
I'm going to tell you a secret. Since they added tabs to Notepad in Windows and dark mode, I kind of just use Notepad as often as I use Notepad++.
That's kind of where I'm at these days. I use a lot of regular Windows 11 Notepad. I do hate that I fucking cannot stand that you can't turn off the smooth scrolling though.
The one thing I like about Notepad++, and Notepad, the default Notepad tool does this too, but it is persistent. So your tabs remain between sessions. So if you close the file, if you close the program, it opens up the same stuff you had open last time. That's a setting, I'm sure, but that's the way I have it set up. So if I have text files, for example, if I had something like a giant long list of keys to a game and I needed to keep them open and accessible and refreshed constantly when somebody else changes that file, it's a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Better way is probably a spreadsheet though.
Yep. Some other stuff here. And again, I don't really click any of these almost ever. Like you said, I mostly put these in the start menu just so I can type the name and launch them. So there's other stuff that I don't have pinned that I also use quite a bit. This is just what I happen to have pinned. OCCT, which is a very nice, robust hardware stress tester for, test your memory, your CPU.
Yep. It turns out it doesn't help with the Intel 13th and 14th gen problems, so it passes reliably.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Sometimes it'll trigger an error in the error log, even though it passes the OCCT test.
Is it Cinebench that people are using to reveal these problems?
It is different for almost every computer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fun.
A bunch of different tools.
All right.
Shader decompile or shader compiling, pretty reliable. Decompressing, sometimes reliable. Installing your NVIDIA drivers will do it for a lot of people these days.
Interesting. Yeah. It sounds like I need to just go run a bunch of games and see if because like I said, I haven't fired up Half-Life Alyx on this machine ever until yesterday. And I was immediately greeted with that error, and I was like,
I feel like Call of Duty and Fortnite are ones that people reliably said.
Fortnite, I feel like Fortnite was like the one, right?
Fortnite was what did it for me. It's Oodle, anything that uses Oodle for texture compression or asset compression.
Love personal computers these days. Parsec, very useful for screen sharing, playing games remotely on other people's computers, which we use for work quite a bit.
Do you use that for like 4-player, everybody sitting on the same couch type games, or?
I'd say like 95% of the time we're just using Parsec to see what somebody else is playing.
Oh, with low latency.
We almost never use the controller sharing local multiplayer stuff, although occasionally. But it's more for just sort of screen snooping for us.
I used Parsec to set up remote play tests for the Anacrusis when we were doing before the game was out, when we wanted to get play tests and didn't want to have people in the office. It was really good.
Yeah. Parsec is great. I mean, there are some things I could nitpick about the feature set that I wish were a little better. I really, anybody who works on Parsec is listening to this. The ability to tell Parsec, hey, only capture audio from this specific application would be absolutely huge.
Oh,
which you can only set it to per device. So you can tell it which audio output device you want it to capture, but it's still going to get every bit of sound going out of those speakers or those headphones.
Yeah, it's weird. That's the thing that Windows is weird about. Like OBS just recently gave you the ability to capture audio on individual applications.
Yes.
Which
basically, basically that. That's
so
exactly
useful.
That's exactly what Parsec needs.
Yeah.
It does. People may be yelling at the monitor or the radio. It does have what they call echo cancellation.
Yeah.
Which I believe, from what I can tell, I think it'll selectively remove an application from the audio output. But it's limited to a short list of
Discord. And so you don't hear yourself on your Discord.
Zoom. That's what it is. It's just removing popular voice chat apps, which is not useful if the thing you need to remove is not one of those.
So I've got a suggestion for you.
Is it install voice meter?
No. Why don't you just set up OBS and make a virtual camera with the audio out?
Wait, can OBS do virtual audio out?
Webcams usually have, I don't know.
Not so sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work, but you should explore that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sumatra PDF.
What is Sumatra PDF? Is this
it is the best lightweight open source PDF reader that I have found.
Okay.
I was using XPDF Reader for a while, these are both fairly Linuxy, open sourcey. XPDF is extremely, you are going to edit configuration files and stuff though.
Nope. Not for me.
Obviously you can just view PDFs in your browser and stuff, but I'm big on keyboard shortcuts these days. I'm big on not having to scroll with a mouse Like being able to instantly like step through pages of stuff with keyboard shortcuts is highly desirable.
I have a tool that I use for PDFs. It's called Acrobat. It comes with the Adobe suite. It used to annoy me because it took a really long time to launch. So I just kept buying faster and faster computers until now it launches really fast.
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, problem solved.
Sumatra is super fast. It's extremely lightweight. And it's got a little bit of that MPV thing of you can set up some custom keyboard shortcuts and stuff, which are
that's
nice for getting around in PDFs quickly.
Can you search inside the file in it easily?
Yeah, it's got okay. pretty decent text search.
I'll check that out. That sounds good.
Speaking of virtualizing the monitor on a headless machine, VNC viewer.
Oh yeah,
is
it's a virtual network computer, I believe.
Yeah, is that what it's called?
I don't know what it stands for actually.
VNC is like the super old school kind of remote desktop protocol system setup, whatever, that I think came out of the open source world. Anyway, the quote unquote VNC viewer I use is part of the Tiger VNC project. I believe it's like the client component of Tiger VNC.
Okay.
Which works quite well. I use it with
fast.
Yeah, it's very fast. I use it with the PyKVM, which is hooked up to my server, NAS, whatever. The reason I use this specific VNC viewer out of the Tiger VNC project is that those developers worked with the PyKVM guy to actually add H.264 compression to the VNC standard.
Oh, nice.
Because I believe previously it only did MJPEG, motion JPEG, I believe.
Yeah, it was the open frame buffer thing is how VNC always worked in the old days. I don't know how it does now.
Yeah, so this specific client has a toggle now where you can tell, and the PyKVM obviously also supports it, so you get H.264 compressed video of the monitor instead, which is a lot nicer.
And the Pi does the Pi does the hardware encode on the H.264. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It works well. Couple more.
Is it encrypted? Do you have to pipe it through SSH, or is
it is not encrypted.
LAN only?
Okay, I think it flat out tells you, like, it transmits your password in plain text and stuff.
Yeah, that's bad.
It is not. Do not use VNC over the internet.
Yeah,
over the open internet.
Good policy.
Let's see. WinMerge.
I love a merge.
It's another one of those portable apps I manage through Scoop. It basically just a very easy little GUI utility to let you compare directories.
Oh.
Literally just feed it two paths and it'll just pop up a giant window of the entire contents of each directory. And you can sort by, there's a column that is like found in both, found on left, found on right. And it literally you can just sort by, show me all the files that are common to both of these directories, show me all the files that are only in one or the other.
Does it do differences if the same file exists in both, but they're different?
It's got all kinds of different mechanisms for, there's like a very fast compare that is just by size and date. There is a kind of medium contents of file that I probably is checking like
a hash or something
like that. And then you can make it do a, like, can compare the like to the bit, are these like, or I guess you could use the hash for that, right? Like should work. The hash would tell you if it is like bit identical or not. But anyway, and that one takes a long, the deepest comparison takes quite a while to run.
That's really cool though. I'll have to check that out. That seems really useful.
If you've got tons of old files and duplicate directories and stuff lying around, it's a good way to look for dupes and see what's, it's like, did I back this up twice? Is this exactly the same? Can I just delete one of these? Like, do I really need to burn an extra 20 gigabytes on this?
Well, I use that. So I use FileBot when I'm ripping movies and stuff. FileBot is a tool that it hooks into like TVDB and MovieDB, the open databases for that stuff. And it does a lot of that same stuff, but also sometimes it's just janky enough that I wonder if it grabbed all the files, and it would be lovely to run a diff on the directories. So that's a useful tool.
Yeah, WinMerge, quite good for that. I'll throw links for some of the more obscure ones of these in the show notes for this.
Yeah, that's always good.
And then WizTree is my current favorite one of the visualize the contents of this drive in a graphical format.
Ooh, kind of better than Windirstat?
Yeah, I haven't used Windirstat in a long time. I was using Space Sniffer for a while.
Space Sniffer was crashy for me, so I've been using Windirstat forever now. WizTree claims to be like by far the fastest one of these, and I think they are probably correct on that from what I've seen. I can test. I know people who can test that.
If you it's not a bad video comparison project. Maybe you do. I think you do have to run it as administrator to make it go fast for what that's worth.
I'm fine. I'm fine giving. Is it open? It looks like it's not.
Oh, maybe not. Actually.
It looks like it's Yeah, it's like shareware.
Yeah, it is like your kind of classic donateware or something. 46 times faster than WinDirStat says this.
Whoa, that's a lot faster.
I think
that sounds good.
I think that's only NTFS drives though, for what that's worth.
Does it annoy you with like something that takes a long time to launch if you don't pony up?
No, it's got a little donate button in the top right that'll kind of like shake at you.
Okay.
Sort of like jitter occasionally from what I've seen.
Okay.
But I have not run into problems with it being unregistered.
$750 to get an unlimited use license. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I guess so.
But also they just have a donate button so you can get whatever you want, which I like.
Yes. And then I have a ton of shortcuts to Windows Terminal with specific command lines in them, which are basically all just SSHing into different machines around this house.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I have those. I have bookmarks in my terminal app for that.
Yeah, like my server, every Pi, the Mister, my router, anything I want to SSH to.
There you go.
Yep.
So that's it. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Jedi KV. Thanks for submitting it. This was a listener suggested topic, so we like this. We did a little bit of our own twist on it, I think, and I would love to hear both from people who are in the Patreon and the Discord and people who are not. We would love to hear what you like. You know, which of these things have we talked about that you're familiar with and you're like, which ones do you think we haven't heard of before? I would love to know more about them. Because like anytime we do an episode like this, I get 30 things from the audience that I've never heard of before that I'm super stoked to try out.
Yeah, there's a specific kind of nerd, and we are very much this kind of nerd. Like there's kind of no greater joy than just finding a little applet that you've never heard of before that does something cool or makes your life easier.
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to install WizTree and WinMerge and probably Lossless Cut, and then I think Music Bee probably is on my list out of this one. So I appreciate it. And I'll try everything again too. So hot everything tips.
Yeah.
But as always, Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod is a listener supported show, which means we wouldn't be here without you, the listener.
We would not.
We don't have any tote bags, or maybe we should make a Brad and Will Made a tote bag to give to like NPR this thing.
Can you get purple tote bags?
I assure you can get purple tote bags.
I went to the Vintage Computer Festival recently, which I think we will hopefully talk about on an upcoming episode soon.
I would love that.
And so I've got like nerdy computer merch on the brain a bit from being there.
So I didn't go to the Vintage Computer Festival.
Oh, dude, you missed out. It was so awesome.
I was really sad. Well, so my wife and daughter realized that they could go sit in line for Olivia Rodrigo tickets on Friday morning, because they release a bunch of tickets at Chase Center at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So they got up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I drove them down to Chase Center. They took some lawn chairs and sat out there with a bunch of other people who were stoked about the concert. They got tickets. We got tickets. We got to go on Friday night.
Very good.
And then Saturday is the annual dog surfing competition in Pacifica, which means I live about a 5-minute walk from that beach, which means getting in or out of my house on that day is a thing that you should only do on foot. And when I looked at when you were like, hey, we're going down, I looked at traffic and I was like, it's going to take me 45 minutes to get to the end of my street.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm not. No, thanks.
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can fill you in soon. Some of the stuff.
I would love to hear about it.
Very, very cool stuff there.
I would love to hear about it. But on that note, again, listener supported. Without you, the listener, we wouldn't be here. So if you want to find out how you can support the show, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. Again, that's patreon.com/techpod, where for $5 a month, you get access to the Discord, which is full of beautiful nerds who talk about like it's good conversations all the way down. We've been talking about last week's episode a lot. In terms of like how network stuff works. We've been talking about my quest to find a under desk hanging mount for my PC so I can make the PC go up and down like the desk does.
Sure.
Turns out my case is a 1/4 of an inch too wide for pretty much anything that's on the market that isn't really expensive.
I might just have to weld your own.
Don't encourage me. And having great conversations all the time with people who have similar interests to you. So please check it out. It's patreon.com/techpod. And we want to do special thank yous to all of our patrons, but especially our executive producer tier patrons, including Andrew Slosky, Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, Jordan Lippett, Bunny Fiend's annual Patreon bill has come due. Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, James Kamek, and Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you.
And I guess that'll do it for us this week, Brad.
It will.
We will be back next week with another edition of Brad Will Made a Tech Pod.
Just trying to think of something.
Look, you were there. You got it.
Ran out of words, man.
Yeah, it's early on Friday morning. So, and by early, I mean noon, I guess now. So we started talking a while ago. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Tech Pod. I hope you all have a lovely week. See you next time. Bye.